Hello everyone, in this video I will explain Azure storage for non-relational data. So in this video we will learn a storage type which we can use to store non-relational data. So let's see one by one. First is Azure Blob Storage, then Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, then Azure File and Azure Table. So I will explain one by one. So let's start with Azure Blob Storage. So Azure Blob Storage is a storage service in Azure which we use to store massive amount of unstructured data as a binary large object or blob in the cloud. And blobs are an efficient way to store data file in a format that is optimized for cloud-based storage, and application can read and write them by using the Azure Blob Storage API. So within the container, we can organize blob in a hierarchy of virtual folder. Similarly, like in our system, how do we store the folders? Like in just example, I have one project. So I will create a one project folder. So in the project folder, if I have a 10 different projects, so inside the project folder, I will create 10 different folder with different name, like project A, project B, project C. So same way we can do in Azure Blob Storage also. By default, these folders are simply a way of using forward slash character in a blob name to organize the blob into namespace. So how can we organize these folders in the Azure Blob Storage? I will show in the practical session, which I will do in a data engineering class. So now let's start with three different type of blob available in Azure Blob Storage. First is blob, paste blob, append blob. Let's start with blob. So blob is handled as a set of blocks. So in the blobs, we have a set of blocks, and in each block can vary in size up to 100 MB, and a blob can contain up to 50,000 blocks, giving a maximum size of over 4.7 terabyte. Okay, so it means in we can have a total 50,000 blocks, and each block can vary in size up to 100 MB, and total size will be up to 4.7 terabytes. Okay, the blobs are best used to store discrete large binary objects that change infrequently. Means we do use blobs to store the data which we don't need to access frequently. Okay, now next is paste blob. A paste blob is organized as a collection of fixed size of 512 byte paste. So in the paste blob, what will happen? Like every page size will be fixed, and it will be 512 byte paste. A paste blob is optimized to support random read and write operation, and we can fetch and store data for a single page if necessary. And we do use this when we have to access data frequently. A paste blob can hold up to 8 terabyte of data, but blobs have capacity only 4.7 terabytes. Now Azure uses paste blob to implement virtual disk storage for virtual machine. So these are the points will be helpful in Azure Data Fundamental exam also. Now next is append blob. An append blob is a blob optimized to support append operation. So we can add block to the end of append blob. Just example, I have 10 append blob and I have to add one more append, then that will be at the 11th position. We cannot add in the mid. Now updating or deleting existing block is not supported. Each block can vary in size up to 4 MB. So each block can have size up to 4 MB only, and the maximum size of append blob is just over 195 GB. So 195 GB is the maximum size of entire append block. So in append block we will have some small block. So inside in so size of every block will be maximum 4 MB, and size of entire block is 195 MB. Means maximum size. We cannot cross 195 MB. Now, uh, blob storage provide 3 access tier which help to balance access latency and storage cost. So let's see the tier. First is hot tier, second is cool tier, and third is archive tier. So hot tier is the default, and we use this tier when we have to access data frequently. Okay, and cool tier when we use when we have to access data occasionally, like just assume today we created a one data set, and we have to use this data set on frequent basis, then we will keep this in hot tier. But just think, after 6 or 7 months this data we don't need to access frequently, then what we will do, we will move this, like we will change the tier to cool tier. And the last is archive tier. So just think, we have a 5 year of data, but now we have to use recent data. Then recent data we will keep in hot tier because we have to access frequently. But just think, 6 months before data or 2 year before data we have to use, but not frequently. So this data we will keep in hot tier, and 3 year, 4 year or 5 year data that we may or may not use. So in this kind of data we can keep in archive tier. So what is the benefit of archive tier? It provides lowest storage cost with increased latency. The archive tier is intended for historical data that must not be lost but is required only rarely. Means we don't want to lose our historical data, but sometimes we may need, so it's not good to keep in hot tier and pay more cost. So this is all about blob storage. So in the next video I will explain data lake storage gen 2. Thank you.